So good morning all. We'll continue with this lesson that we were seeing, biological classification. Yeah, dinoflagellates is over. Today we will move for the next one, euglenoids. So we have studied that there are three types totally in the photosynthetic ones. Okay, chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, and now the third one, which is euglenoids. Okay, we will try to study about euglenoids now. So euglenoids are unicellular, free living, freshwater organisms. Okay, so this is the basic idea of euglenoid. So if you are going to talk about this particular euglenoids in a slightly detailed way, so you just see this particular euglenoid will be having a structure like this. Okay, so you will see the nucleus, the endoplasmic reticulum, membrane bound organelles, like that. It can be any euglenoid basically. Okay, so one thing that they will be like made up of is, instead of cell wall, there is a layer which is made up of proteinaceous layer which is covering it. This proteinaceous layer is made up of pellicle. We call it as pellicle. Okay, so what is this pellicle? Instead of cell wall, they have a protein rich layer called as pellicle. Okay, this pellicle will allow it to change the shape. So this is what is the role of this pellicle. So pellicle is something which will allow the euglenoid to change the shape. So they will have chloroplast obviously because they are all photosynthetic. Okay, so quickly take down this and let me know so that I can further move on. They have two flagella. The first one is long and the second one is short. The long one is helps in locomotion. Yeah, people who did not complete, please look it and write it quickly. Okay. They have two flagella, one of which is long and it helps in locomotion. And the next point is they have chlorophyll in chloroplast. No, they will not have similar to dinoflagellates. What is that you're able to see here? In dinoflagellates, if you're going to see, one will be like this, which will be like moving towards that side, and the other one will be like kind of like one will be longitudinal and other one is transversal. So one will be like moving this way. But here you see like both are there in the same direction only. Okay, children, you are asking some very questions like this. Are they prokaryotic cells or eukaryotic cells? I have told you amply times that there is in this biological classification, we are trying to study about 5 kingdoms. The first kingdom was Monera. We have studied about it already. The second kingdom is Protista. The third kingdom is fungi. The fourth kingdom is Plantae. And the fifth kingdom is Animalia. Okay, in this thing, only Monera is prokaryote. All the remaining 4 kingdoms are eukaryotes. So now tell me, euglenoids come under which kingdom? Euglenoids come under which kingdom? Which kingdom are we studying now? Please respond. Protista. So euglenoid should be prokaryote or eukaryote? Euglenoid should be prokaryote or eukaryote? Eukaryote. Okay. Still someone is saying prokaryotic. Okay. So please change the answer. It is not prokaryote. This protista is coming under, euglenoid is coming under euglenoid, chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, slime molds, and protozoans are all coming under this kingdom, which means all these things are What? All these things are basically eukaryotes. What is the difference between all these things? Prokaryote. This is completely prokaryote and it is unicellular. This protista is eukaryote plus unicellular. All these three things are eukaryotes plus multicellular. And how they are divided? So that is based on the nutrition, which we will study. This is saprophytic. This is for autotrophic. And this is heterotrophic. Okay, this is how it is like kind of divided. So please hereafter, please don't ask these kind of questions while you're seeing these kind of questions where I'm drawing a nucleus which is like there covered, and then I'm drawing membrane bound organelles, and I'm drawing this endoplasmic reticulum kind of structures. It means they are all eukaryotic structures. Okay, so please don't get confused. So they have chlorophyll in chloroplast. The chlorophyll is chlorophyll A. The one found in higher plants. Okay. They are photosynthetic. And store food in the form of para. So plants and all will store food in the form of starch, but euglenoids will store the food in the form of paramylum. And the next point is they have a light sensitive red eye spot. Okay, so which means like in this particular region, there is something called as a eye spot. This eye spot is red in color and it is light sensitive, which means it will help the euglenoid to move towards the structure, move towards the light or move away from the light. Okay, copied. If you have copied, you let me know so that I can move on. Okay, I'll just try to tell you. Yes, Chlamydomonas is going to be like there. Yes, euglenoids are also precursors to higher plants. Yes, right. That is right. Okay, so if you are done, we'll move on. Reproduction is through longitudinal binary fission. Okay, the flagellum is the one first. So also multiple fission is observed. Multiple fission is observed in unfavorable conditions. Okay, so this multiple fission is nothing but encystation. So you guys know what is encystation, right? Okay, so whenever there is an unfavorable condition, what will happen is normally binary fission will happen. Under normal conditions, what will happen is one cell will divide into two cell and it will release two cells. This is binary fission. Okay, so whenever there is a condition, abnormal condition or an unfavorable condition, let us say, what kind of unfavorable condition? You think about euglenoids. Euglenoids will live in stagnant water. Okay, whenever there is a rain, they will be like there, and then like there will be a puddle. Inside the puddle, you can see this thing. Inside the puddle, you can see the euglenoids. Or wherever water is stagnant in that particular place, it will be there. But when the water is getting dried up, what will happen is this particular euglenoids will try to form something called as a cyst. This is called as cyst. Yeah, like plasmodium. In 10th standard, you would have studied about that thing. No, that is what the cyst is formed. So inside this thing, this euglenoids will start to divide. Multiple copies will be divided. So and then it will wait for the favorable condition to come back. Once the favorable condition comes back, this cyst will break open and the euglenoids will start to get out. So this is what you call it as a multiple fission. So one copy which was there inside has started to become multiple copies and then finally it is releasing. So since the cyst is formed, we call this method as encystation. Okay. The cyst is like kind of a very protective. When it is completely, the water is dried up, it will die. That's all. There is no other option. If it has formed a cyst before the thing, the cyst is like kind of like it is capable of withstanding long time. Okay. So say for example, if the cyst is like there, the cyst can withstand periods like 2 months, 3 months kind of period. It can withstand without getting affected. So within the thing, if some rain is coming and then like that water has stagnated, in that case, the cyst will break open. And then what will happen? The cyst will be like kind of uh, breaking open, and then it will release the organisms. The organisms will be there till the water is there. Once again, it can be there. Okay, someone is asking, sir, when the chlorophyll is A is present as in higher plants, why can't they store the food in terms of starch? Okay, you please understand what is the meaning of starch and this other things. Starch is very complex in nature. Complex structure it is. Okay, the starch itself is made up of two components. One we call it as amylose, and the other one we call it as amylopectin. Okay, so these are all complex structures which are there, which you will study in this biomolecules chapter. Okay, so a unicellular organism like euglenoid will not have the requirement of such complex structures. Basically, this para-amylum is very what you say, like this is a very normal structure, simple structure it is. So it can, even though if I mean like it can produce, what is the difference between starch and para-amylum? Maybe the chain size will be different. This will also be made up of glucose. This is also going to be made up of glucose. But how this glucose is packed? That is varying. Okay, so basically these guys are having a small home, and then probably they will pack things in a different way. And these guys plants have a very huge house where they can store lots of stuff, so they packet things in a different way. So that is the basic difference. Okay, so please understand this amylum, starch, para-amylum, everything is all like same only, but in terms of content. But when you're going to talk about the structure of it, it just is different in terms of complexity. Okay, so coming back here, this is what is multiple fission is observed whenever you are having unfavorable conditions. So someone wanted me to show euglenoids. So you see these are all euglenoids, example for euglenoids. Okay. Okay, euglenoids is a huge class. Okay, inside which you have different types of organisms. Euglena is one such thing. So if you see here, this is euglena, and there is an organism which is called as Phacus. This Phacus is going to be one more type of euglenoid. So you see these are all different types of euglenoids in this thing. They have given lots of examples. Euglena is one example. Okay, there is one Phacus which is there as an example. Petalomonas is one example. Entosiphon is one example. Diastigma is one example. If you want, you can write these names as an example for euglenoids. Okay, please write it if you want. No. You see here, this organism and all is having two flagella. Okay. You're able to see two flagella in some of these things. So please don't get confused. You see this entosiphon and all, entosiphon you're able to see two. And even this Tetrapterita is also having two. So you have two things. The shorter flagella will be used in sensitivity. So it will be like kind of it will sense the environment. Okay. The mode of nutrition is autotrophic, obviously, because they are having what? They are having photosynthesis ability. So since they are able to photosynthesize, it means they are capable of doing autotrophic nutrition. Okay. Okay. When trying to talk about this Chlamydomonas, okay, Chlamydomonas is unicellular, but classified as algae. Okay, Chlamydomonas only. It is there is a thing. Okay, when talking about this euglenoids, you have to know one more thing. What is the thing that you have to know is these euglenoids normally are phototrophic in nature. Okay, but whenever there is lack of food, what can happen is these things will be able to engulf particles which are there, and they can make it as they can ingest them also. So there are like two things which can happen. Okay, so most of these things, most of these euglenoids are photosynthetic. Okay, 95% of the time maybe you can say, but there is a 5% chance that they will be like not be having sufficient sunlight for producing food. Under such circumstances, they can ingest food and behave as heterotrophs. Usually we call them as facultative heterotrophs, which means facultative heterotrophs means whenever they are partially heterotrophic, we call them as facultative heterotrophs. That kind of situation is also seen with thing. Yeah, holozoic, right? So this is what is the thing that you have to know about it. So here, maybe if you want to note it down, you can write they are photosynthetic, but at times they behave as heterotrophs. Okay. So one more thing that you will be able to see here is one thing that I wanted to tell you here very clearly is Chlamydomonas is unicellular. Okay, but it is classified as algae because of some reasons. Usually algae should include only multicellular organisms, but Chlamydomonas is strangely placed in that particular class of algae because they have some complex structures. Okay, so the structure of Chlamydomonas is somewhat different from protist in terms of like organization. It is complex slightly. So you can call this as a unicellular algae. Which one? Chlamydomonas. So Chlamydomonas cannot be clubbed under euglenoids. I told you earlier that they might be considered as protist, but you please understand that Chlamydomonas is a unicellular algae. It's like kind of like the position of Chlamydomonas in this five kingdom classification is slightly debatable. Why? Because like it is unicellular, it is photosynthetic, so naturally it should have come under Protista. But since the complexity of structures are involved, they are like kind of kept under Plantae, under algae. Okay, so that is something that you need to understand. If you guys are done, you let me know so that I can further move. Are you guys done?
Hello.
The next thing is slime molds.
Hello, sir. Shivraj, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, just a small information to the students. It's a little
Okay,
important. That's why. Yeah.
you tell me. You tell them.
Yeah. Students, kindly listen. Tomorrow onwards, you will have 4 hours of classes instead of 2 hours. So kindly note down the timings. The timings will be from 9:40 to 10:40 as usual, 10:50 to 11:50. Then there will be a lunch break, and afternoon you will have 2 hours classes. That is from 2:20 to 3:20, 2:20 p.m. to 3:20 p.m. and from 3:30 to 4:30. Tomorrow onwards, this will be like this. Kindly share with your friends too who have not come for the classes today. I hope it is clear. Thank you. Okay, I'll just once again I'll tell. Am I audible, Shivraj sir?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, morning sessions classes will happen as usual till 11:50, and after the lunch break you will have classes from 2:20 to 3:20, and then from 3:30 to 4:30. That is total of 4 hours classes from tomorrow. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Afternoon you will have this time, so please note it down. So with this thing, we have completed that photosynthetic part. Okay. So please understand, while we are studying about this protista, inside this protista, you have 3 things which you have studied. These 3 things will come under photosynthetic. And you have the slime moles. The slime moles is going to come under saprotrophic. And then this will come under heterotrophic. So now we have completed euglenoids, we have completed chrysophytes, we have completed dinoflagellates. Now we are going to embark into slime moles. Yeah, saprophytic only. Saprophytic, saprotrophic. Okay, there is a very vague thing. If you go for saprophytic, it is you mean to say that they live on dead and decaying plants. When I'm saying saprotrophic, it can be anything. No, it is from tomorrow only, not from today. The afternoon session will be only from tomorrow. So slime molds itself is existing in 2 forms. One is what we call it as acellular slime mold, and the other one is called as cellular slime mold. Okay, so now we will try to study about what is this acellular slime mold. So in acellular slime mold, you will have like kind of like a huge thing will be there where you will have thousands of nucleus. So it's all nucleus. So it will be like looking like lots of cells fused together to form some structure. Okay, it looks like a large mass of protoplasm in which there are thousands of nuclei lacking cell walls. Okay, it will appear as if it is slimy. Okay, and this kind of structure is what we call it as plasmodium. Please understand that plasmodium organism is different from this acellular plasmodium. Okay, when do we call it as plasmodium? Whenever we call this as a cenocytic case, where like multiple cells are fused together. So let us say that there might be thousands of cells which might be there, but it is all fused together into one mass. And there is no cell wall which is demarcated. This kind of arrangement is what we call it as plasmodium. Okay, so you will be able to see them. That is one group of slime molds. Okay, and what they will do is they will be like kind of like they will move like an amoeba. And they will digest and consumes. Actually, all the organisms are put together. It will be forming like a jelly like thing. So have you ever seen slime or jelly? How will it be? It will be like that. Okay, it is all unicellular. I mean, like there is no particular cell wall. So it will be like looking like a blob of a creature which is kind of moving together. Okay, but all these things are like kind of like underdeveloped things. But what is the only thing that you know is like it has a eukaryotic structure. Okay, this is the probably the first form of fungi which has evolved. Okay, so it is like kind of so this is the slimy thing in the walls after rains. Yes, this is the slimy things. So maybe we can see some slime molds, then you will understand it. So you see, this is all slime molds. You're able to see, so this kind of blob like structure that you're seeing here on top of wood and all, which will be like kind of rotting. So these are all like examples for slime molds. This is how they will be looking like. Okay, so this one you might have seen very frequently. This kind of structure you might be seeing frequently on top of wood and all after a rain. Sometimes it is green in color, but most of the time it is yellowish color. If it is green in color, mostly it is photosynthetic. They do not have pseudopodia and all. Okay, these are the ones which will rot the wood. Wooden furnitures and all will have this thing. Okay, this is what we call it as slime mold. Slime is capable of moving. Yes, it is capable of moving. Maybe if it is like, okay, you can say pseudopodia, not a problem. Okay, but Tambi, all these things, this is not Pasi in Tamil. Okay, so actually that word Pasi is like kind of many things together. You can also call algae as Pasi. Okay, and you can also call unicellular algae as Pasi. You can also call fungi as Pasi. You can also call these slime molds as Pasi. Like you can call it as like multiple names. It all depends on how uh, intricate the organism is. If you are going to observe it under a microscope, each of these things might be different. What we do in terms of like when we are talking about Pasi is like we kind of club many things together. Okay. We commonly call Pasi, I mean like algae as Pasi, anything which is green and anything which is coming after, I mean like after a rain is what we call it as Pasi. What do they eat? That is what I told you, that they are living on wooden plants, woody plants. So which means it will try to rot that wood and then it will try to eat it. So the food for this thing is like a thing. Yes, they will have a cell membrane. Obviously, they will have a cell membrane. So you see, this is how the plasmodium will be looking like. So here they have, this is all plasmodium. So this is, if you see this thing, this is like kind of like lots of things put together. So you here you see, this is how the plasmodium is. This is a feeding plasmodium. Feeding plasmodium means something which is kind of eating, okay, which is growing. After some time, it is getting matured. And after maturing, what it will try to do is it will try to create some blob-like structure, which is called as a sporangium. And then the sporangium will produce spores, and those things will try to fall, and then again it will form what? It will try to form the plasmodium again. I'm not going to explain the sexual reproduction cycle here. That is quite advanced and not required. Okay, but just to understand that a plasmodium is there, and then it is maturing, it will reproduce. Why aren't they classified as fungi? Because they are unicellular in nature. Had they been multicellular, it would be classified as fungi. Okay, so now if you're going to talk about cellular type, okay, you will be able to see the same thing, but it will be distinct. Okay, so this is how the cellular thing is there. Okay, if they are photosynthetic, they would not be called as slime molds. Okay, whenever we are talking about slime molds, we are talking about unicellular organisms that are that are saprotrophic. So this is how the cellular aggregate will be there. But what is the whole thing? They will be like, that is what is the difference between the case. So this is like a group of cells, yes, but are they working together or no is the question. Okay, so whenever I am trying to tell about unicellular, what I am trying to tell is this is one organism, this is second organism, this is third organism, this is fourth organism, like that. But they are all independent entities, but they move together. Okay, they will be like moving together. So they are distinct. They are distinct because of one reason. Sometimes they can go away from this thing also. It is like more of a colony. Yes, exactly. Okay, slime molds, cellular, will have distinct cell walls. So you are able to see a cell wall here and individual cells. Whereas in acellular, you are not able to see this kind of cell wall distinction. So we call this structure as pseudoplasmodium. We call this as pseudoplasmodium structure. We call it as pseudoplasmodium because they are not fused. Okay. Usually slime molds are advanced protist or Primitive fungi. Okay, we can either call them as advanced protists or you can call them as primitive fungi. Reproduction is because of spore formation. Yeah, they are link organisms. It can be sexual or asexual. Reproduction is mostly through spore formation. The reproduction can either be sexual or asexual. Are you guys understanding? Okay. Now, do you guys know what is the difference between diploid, haploid and all? Someone was asking me, what is the difference between diploid and haploid? Okay, so still someone was asking me about that thing whenever I was showing that slime mold thing. I will try to tell that thing once again, just to clarify things. Okay, so whenever you're talking about an organism can have two sets of chromosomes or one set of chromosomes. Let us talk about a human being. You talk about me, I am a person, I am an individual who's a male. So I have received my chromosomes from my father and I have received my chromosome from my mother. My mother has given me 23 chromosomes and father has given me 23 chromosomes. And then I have 46 chromosomes or 23 pairs of chromosomes. Okay, so which means in my body, the first chromosome will have two copies, one from my father, one from my mother. The second chromosome will also have one copy, two copies, one father, one mother. Similarly, third one will also be there. These two chromosomes will be same in function, but this one will look like more like my father. This one will carry inheritance traits from my mother. So I am having 23 pairs of chromosomes. So I am considered as a diploid organism because I have two sets of chromosomes. Whereas in case of haploid, there is no two parent. I am just having one set of chromosome. Okay, so I will be considered as N. In this case, diploid, I will be considered as 2N. Okay. I will talk about meiosis and all later because meiosis is slightly a complex topic which I don't want to start now. It is 11:50, so I'll just show all the slides once and then you guys can continue with your, if you want to take snapshots or photographs, you can take it. First slide. Anyone wants first slide? Second slide. Third slide. Fourth slide. I'll announce Thambi. Fifth slide. Yeah, slime molds got completed. Sixth slide. I'll tell you, I'll announce it once again. 7th slide. Eighth slide. Okay. Thank you, children.